The sun was bright in the sky as many people gathered near the royal palace. They were there to watch the guards change places, something tourists love to see. The guards wore red uniforms and tall black hats. They stood very straight and did not smile or move much. This was their job, and they took it very seriously. Among the crowd was a man named Michael. He was not there to take pictures or enjoy the show. Michael had angry thoughts in his mind. Life had been hard for him lately. He lost his job 3 months ago. His wife left him last year. He felt like the world was against him. When he saw the royal guards on TV, he thought they looked proud and happy. This made him even more upset. Michael wore a gray jacket and kept his hands in his pockets. In his right pocket was a knife. He had bought it 2 days ago from a shop that did not ask many questions. The knife was sharp and had a black handle. Michael kept touching it to make sure it was still there. This will show them all, he thought to himself. Everyone will know my name after today. The crowd grew bigger as the time for the ceremony came closer. People pushed forward, trying to get a better view. This helped Michael move closer to the front without looking suspicious. He stood near a family with 2 small children. The parents were busy with their cameras and did not notice how Michael kept looking at the guards. James Wilson was one of the royal guards on duty that day. He had been a guard for 6 years. Before that, he was in the army where he learned how to fight and defend himself. James was good at his job. His boots were shiny, and his uniform was perfect. He stood without moving, his eyes looking straight ahead. James had a family waiting for him at home. His wife Emma was a teacher, and they had a 5-year-old daughter named Lily. That morning, Lily had drawn a picture of her dad in his red uniform. "My daddy protects the Queen," she told her mother proudly. James thought about this as he stood at his post. The ceremony began with music. The guards started to march in perfect steps. Their feet moved at the same time, and their arms swung in the same way. The crowd watched with wide eyes. Many people held up phones and cameras to record the moment. Michael felt his heart beat faster. His hands began to sweat. The knife felt heavy in his pocket. He took a deep breath and waited for the right moment. The guards would soon march past where he was standing. That would be his chance. James marched with the other guards. He had done this hundreds of times before. His mind was calm as he followed the steps he knew so well. But something made him look at the crowd. Years of training had taught him to notice when something was not right, and something about the man in the gray jacket did not seem right. The man was not smiling like the other tourists. He was not taking pictures. His body seemed tense, ready to move. James kept his face still, but his mind was now alert. He watched the man from the corner of his eye. The guards came closer to where Michael was standing. The music was loud. People were clapping. Michael's hand gripped the knife tightly. His moment was coming. In just a few seconds, he would jump forward and attack. James saw the man's hand move inside his pocket. He saw his eyes focus. He saw him start to lean forward slightly. These were all signs that the man was about to do something. James prepared himself without showing any change in his march. His muscles tensed slightly, ready to react if needed. The crowd continued to watch, unaware of what was about to happen. Children sat on their parents' shoulders for a better view. People smiled and pointed. It was a perfect day for the ceremony. No one expected that in just moments, everything would change. Michael moved fast. He pushed past a woman with a small child and jumped over the small rope that kept people back. The crowd was shocked. Some people screamed. Others just watched with open mouths. No one expected this to happen during the nice ceremony. For the people, Michael shouted as he pulled the knife from his pocket. The blade caught the sunlight and flashed. He ran straight at the guard named James. His face was red with anger. Years of feeling small and forgotten made him want to do something big, something people would remember. James saw the attack coming. His training took over. The years in the army and as a royal guard had prepared him for this moment. His body knew what to do before his mind could even think about it. As Michael came at him with the knife, James moved to the side very slightly. The knife cut through the air. It missed the center of James's chest, where Michael had aimed. Instead, it hit his arm. The red uniform tore, and blood began to show. James felt the sharp pain, but he did not let it stop him. The cut was not deep enough to be very serious. "Drop the weapon," James shouted. His voice was firm and clear. The other guards were already moving to help, but James knew he had to act first. Michael was close to him, still holding the knife, ready to try again. In one quick move, James grabbed Michael's wrist. He pressed hard on a certain spot that made Michael's hand hurt. This was a special move James had learned in his training. It made it hard for someone to keep holding something. Michael tried to keep his grip on the knife, but his fingers began to open without him wanting them to. The crowd watched in fear and surprise. Parents pulled their children close. Some people ran away from the scene. Others stayed and took videos with their phones. No one helped because it was happening so fast, and they could see that James knew what he was doing. "Let go of me," Michael shouted. He tried to pull away, but James was stronger. The guard twisted Michael's arm behind his back. The move was fast and skilled. Michael felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. He did not want to drop the knife, but the pain was too much. The knife fell to the ground with a small sound. James pushed Michael down to the ground. He put his knee on Michael's back to keep him from getting up. Michael's face was pressed against the stone path. He tried to fight, but it was no use. James had him in a hold that he could not break. "Stay down," James said in a calm voice. He was breathing hard, but his hands were steady. He could feel the wet blood on his arm, but he did not look at it. His job now was to make sure Michael could not hurt anyone else. The other guards formed a circle around James and Michael. They moved the crowd back to keep everyone safe. Some guards had their weapons ready, but they did not need to use them. James had the situation under control. "The police are coming," one of the other guards told James. "And an ambulance for your arm." James nodded but kept his hold on Michael. He could hear the sirens in the distance. They were getting closer. Help was on the way. Michael had stopped fighting. He lay still under James's hold. The anger on his face was gone. Now he just looked sad and scared. He had thought his attack would make him feel powerful. Instead, he felt weak and foolish. It had all happened so fast. All his planning had failed in just a few seconds. "Why did you do this?" James asked in a quiet voice that only Michael could hear. Michael did not answer. Tears began to run down his face. He had wanted to be famous. He had wanted people to notice him. Now they would, but not in the way he had hoped. The police cars arrived with their lights flashing. Officers jumped out and ran to the scene. They took over from James, putting handcuffs on Michael and lifting him to his feet. As they led him away, Michael looked back at James one last time. Their eyes met for a brief moment. A medical worker came to look at James's arm. The cut needed to be cleaned and wrapped. James sat down for the first time since the attack began. His body began to shake slightly as the excitement of the moment started to fade. He had stopped a dangerous attack. He had done his job well. But now he felt the pain and the shock of what had just happened. The news about the attack spread fast. On TV, people watched videos taken by tourists. The videos showed how quickly James had stopped Michael. Many news people called James a hero. They praised his quick thinking and brave actions. At the hospital, doctors put 12 stitches in James's arm. The cut was about 4 inches long but not very deep. The doctor told James he was lucky. If the knife had hit just 2 inches to the right, it could have cut a major blood vessel, the doctor said. "You might have lost a lot of blood." James sat on the edge of the bed while a nurse wrapped a clean bandage around his arm. His uniform jacket lay on a chair nearby. It had a long cut in the sleeve and was stained with blood. James would need a new jacket. A police officer named Sarah came to talk to James. She had short brown hair and kind eyes. She sat in a chair next to the bed and took out a small notebook. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "My arm hurts a bit," James said, "but I am okay." "What about the man who attacked me?" "His name is Michael Trent," Sarah said. "He is 32 years old. He has had some trouble in his life. He lost his job. His wife left him. He has been angry for a long time." James nodded. He felt sorry for Michael, even though the man had tried to hurt him. James wondered what had gone wrong in Michael's life to make him do such a thing. At the police station, Michael sat in a small room. 2 police officers asked him questions. Michael did not say much. He looked at the floor most of the time. "Why did you attack the guard?" one officer asked. Michael was quiet for a long time before he answered. "I wanted people to notice me," he said in a quiet voice. "I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be famous." The officers looked at each other. They had heard this kind of answer before. Some people did bad things just to get attention. It was sad and hard to understand. Back at the palace, workers cleaned the area where the attack had happened. They picked up things that tourists had dropped when they ran away. They found cameras, water bottles, and even a child's toy. These things would be kept safe until their owners came back for them. The other guards continued their duty. They stood tall and kept their faces serious. But among themselves, they talked about what had happened. They were proud of James. They said he had shown what good training could do. At James's home, his wife Emma watched the news on TV. She held her phone tight, waiting for James to call. Their daughter Lily was at school. Emma had not told her what had happened yet. She did not want to scare her. When the phone rang, Emma answered it quickly. "James, are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaking a little. "I am fine," James said. "Just a small cut on my arm. The doctors are letting me go home soon." Emma felt tears come to her eyes. She was so happy that James was safe. "Lily drew you another picture at school today," she said. "She will be so happy to see you." James smiled as he thought about his daughter. "I cannot wait to see both of you," he said. At the royal palace, the head of security, a man named Robert, watched the videos of the attack. He had been in charge of training the guards for 15 years. He felt proud of how James had handled the situation. "This is why we train so hard," he told the other security staff. "When something bad happens, we do not have time to think. Our bodies must know what to do." The other staff nodded in agreement. They would use this event as a training example for new guards. They would show them how James had stayed calm and used his training to stop the attack without causing too much harm. As the day ended, people all over the country talked about what had happened. The story was on all the news shows. People felt a mix of fear and relief. Something bad had almost happened, but a brave guard had stopped it. It made them feel safer to know that the guards were so well trained. The next morning, James woke up in his own bed. His arm felt stiff and sore. The bandage was clean and white. His wife Emma had already gotten up. He could hear her moving around in the kitchen. The smell of coffee filled the house. James sat up slowly. He looked at the clock. It was 8 in the morning. Normally, he would have been at work for 2 hours already. But his boss had told him to take a few days off. "Daddy." Lily ran into the room and jumped on the bed. She was still in her pajamas with little bears on them. Her hair was messy from sleep. "Did you really fight a bad guy?" James smiled at his daughter. "I did," he said. "But it is all over now, and everything is okay." Lily looked at the bandage on his arm. "Does it hurt?" she asked in a small voice. "Just a little bit," James said. "Like when you fell off your bike last summer. It will get better soon." Emma came into the room with a cup of coffee for James. She sat on the edge of the bed and ran her hand through Lily's hair. "Your daddy was very brave," she told Lily. "Now go get dressed for school." Lily gave James a gentle hug, being careful not to touch his hurt arm. Then she ran off to her room. Emma looked at James with worried eyes. "How did you sleep?" she asked. "Not very well," James admitted. "I kept thinking about what happened, about what could have happened if I had been a second slower." Emma took his hand. "But you were not slower," she said. "You did everything right." At the police station, officers worked to learn more about Michael Trent. They looked at his phone and computer. They talked to people who knew him. They wanted to understand why he had attacked the guard. They found that Michael had been looking up information about the Royal Guards for weeks. He had saved news stories about other attacks around the world. He had written in a journal about feeling angry and unimportant. "I want to do something that matters," he had written. "Something that people will remember." The lead detective, a man named David, read through all the information. He had seen cases like this before. People who felt like their lives had no meaning sometimes did terrible things to be noticed. "It is sad," David told his team. "If Michael had gotten help for his problems, this might never have happened." Later that day, James received a phone call. It was from the royal palace. The head guard told him that the Queen wanted to meet him. "Her Majesty wishes to thank you in person," the head guard said. "Can you come to the palace tomorrow at 10 in the morning?" James was surprised. He had never met the Queen before. Most guards served for years without ever speaking to her. "Yes, of course," he said. When he told Emma about the call, she was excited. "What will you wear?" she asked. "Your uniform is ruined." "They are sending a new one," James said. "It will be delivered this afternoon." Meanwhile, news reporters tried to learn more about James. They found out he had grown up in a small town. His father had been a police officer. James had joined the army at 18 and had served for 6 years before becoming a royal guard. They also learned that he had once saved a child from drowning at a local pool. He had never talked about it much, but the pool manager remembered it well. "He jumped right in with all his clothes on," the manager told a reporter. "He did not even think about it. He just acted." This story made James even more popular with the public. People saw him as a real hero, someone who had been brave many times in his life. By evening, Michael Trent had been charged with attempted murder and attacking a royal guard. If found guilty, he would go to prison for many years. The court had ordered that he see a doctor who could check his mental health. Some people wondered if he was ill in a way that made him unable to control his actions. As James got ready for bed that night, he looked at his new uniform hanging in the closet. Tomorrow he would meet the Queen. It was a big honor. But as he lay down next to Emma, he thought that the biggest honor was simply being able to come home to his family. The palace looked even bigger up close. James had worked here for years, but today felt different. He was not here as a guard. He was here as a guest of the Queen. His new uniform felt stiff, and his shoes were extra shiny. Emma had helped him get ready that morning, making sure everything was perfect. "Remember to bow when you meet her," Emma had told him, "and only speak when she asks you a question." James walked through the main gates. 2 guards stood there. They were men he worked with every day. Today they smiled at him and nodded with respect. One of them, a guard named Tom, gave him a small salute. "Well done, James," Tom said quietly as James passed by. A woman in a dark suit met James inside. Her name was Patricia. She was the Queen's personal assistant. She had a kind smile, but serious eyes. "Follow me, please," Patricia said. "Her Majesty is waiting in the blue room." James followed Patricia through long hallways. The walls were covered with paintings of people who had lived hundreds of years ago. The floors were shiny and made a small noise when they walked. James had been in some parts of the palace before, but never in the private areas where the Queen spent her time. The blue room was smaller than James had expected. It had light blue walls and white furniture. Large windows looked out over a garden with flowers of many colors. The Queen sat in a chair near the window. She was smaller in person than she looked on TV. She wore a simple blue dress and a small crown. "Your Majesty, this is Guardsman James Wilson," Patricia said. James bowed low, just as Emma had told him to do. His heart beat fast in his chest. He was nervous to meet such an important person. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Wilson," the Queen said. Her voice was gentle but clear. "Please, sit down." James sat in a chair across from the Queen. A small table between them had a silver tea set on it. Patricia poured tea into 2 cups and then left the room quietly. "I wanted to thank you personally for your bravery," the Queen said. "You prevented what could have been a terrible tragedy." "I was just doing my job, Your Majesty," James said. His mouth felt dry, even though he had just had a sip of tea. The Queen smiled. "That is what all brave people say," she said. "But not everyone would have acted as quickly and skillfully as you did." They talked for about 20 minutes. The Queen asked about James's family and his time in the army. She seemed really interested in his life. At the end of their meeting, she handed him a small blue box. "This is the Royal Medal of Bravery," she said. "It is given to those who show exceptional courage in the face of danger." James opened the box. Inside was a gold medal with a red ribbon. On one side was the face of the Queen. On the other side were the words "for bravery" in fancy letters. "Thank you, Your Majesty," James said, feeling proud and humble at the same time. "This is a great honor." When James left the palace, news people were waiting outside. They took pictures and asked questions. James answered a few questions, but did not say much about his meeting with the Queen. He felt that some things should stay private. At the mental health center, Michael Trent sat in a room with a doctor named Dr. Harris. She had been talking with him for several hours over the past 2 days. She was trying to understand his mind and why he had attacked the guard. "I feel like I am waking up from a bad dream," Michael told her. "I cannot believe I really did that." Dr. Harris wrote notes on a pad of paper. "What do you feel now when you think about what happened?" she asked. "I feel ashamed," Michael said. His eyes looked at the floor. "I could have killed that guard. He has a family. I never really thought about that before I did it." Dr. Harris nodded. This was a good sign. Michael was starting to understand the seriousness of what he had done. He was starting to feel sorry for his actions. This was the first step toward getting better. "We will continue to work together," Dr. Harris said. "We need to find better ways for you to handle your feelings." Later that night, James showed the medal to Lily. She held it carefully in her small hands, her eyes wide with wonder. "Does this mean you are a hero?" she asked. James smiled at his daughter. "It means I did my job well," he said. "Just like you do your best at school." Emma watched them from the doorway. She felt proud of her husband, but also relieved that he was safe. She knew that being the guard would always be dangerous. But today, she was just happy to have him home. 1 week had passed since the attack. James was getting ready to go back to work. His arm was healing well. The doctor had said he could return to duty, but he should be careful not to strain his arm too much. The stitches had been removed 2 days ago. A red line now marked his skin where the knife had cut him. The doctor said it would fade over time but would always leave a scar. James did not mind. The scar would remind him to always stay alert. "Are you sure you are ready?" Emma asked as she helped him with his uniform. She tried to sound calm, but James could hear the worry in her voice. "Yes," James said. "I cannot stay away too long. The other guards need me." Emma nodded. She understood that his job was important to him. But after seeing how close he had come to serious harm, she could not help feeling scared. "Just be careful," she said, straightening his collar. "Come home safe." When James arrived at the palace, many guards came to welcome him back. They shook his hand and patted his back. They were glad to see him. During his week away, many of them had visited his home, bringing food and good wishes from their families. "The new security rules start today," Tom told him. "Because of what happened?" James nodded. After the attack, the head of security had made some changes. There would be more guards along the fence. The rope that kept tourists back would be stronger and farther from the guards. Guards would now work in pairs instead of alone. "I hear the tourists miss you. Another guard named Mark said with a smile. "They have been asking if the hero guard will come back." James felt his face get warm. He did not think of himself as a hero, but the news had shown his picture many times. People knew his face now. Some even asked for his autograph when they saw him on the street. At the courthouse, Michael Trent had his first hearing. He wore a plain gray suit that looked too big for him. His lawyer was a woman named Miss Collins. She had been chosen by the court to help him because he had no money for a lawyer of his own. The judge asked Michael if he understood the charges against him. Michael said yes in a quiet voice. He did not look up from the floor. "How do you plead?" the judge asked. "Guilty, Your Honor," Michael said. His voice shook a little. People in the courtroom whispered to each other. They had expected him to say not guilty. Most people tried to avoid going to prison if they could. Miss Collins explained to the court that Michael was very sorry for what he had done. She said he had been having mental health problems, but was now getting help. She asked the judge to consider this when deciding his punishment. "My client understands that he must face the consequences of his actions," Miss Collins said, "but we ask for mercy given his mental state at the time." The judge said he would think about everything before making a decision. He set a date for the sentencing hearing in 1 month. Until then, Michael would stay in a secure mental health facility, not in a regular jail. At the palace, James stood at his post. It felt good to be back in uniform, doing the job he was trained for. Tourists walked by, taking pictures. Some pointed at him and whispered. A few waved or gave him a thumbs-up sign. James kept his face serious, as guards were supposed to do. But inside, he felt proud to be back. The attack had not made him afraid. Instead, it had reminded him why his job was important. He was there to protect people. That was what he had always wanted to do. During his lunch break, James called Emma to let her know everything was fine. After he hung up, he sat with the other guards in their break room. They talked about normal things like sports and their families. No one mentioned the attack. They did not need to. It was part of their shared experience now. One of the younger guards, a new man named Ryan, asked James for advice on how to stay alert during long hours of standing still. "Watch the people, not just their faces but their hands and the way they move," James told him. "Your mind might wander sometimes, but your eyes should always be working." Ryan nodded and thanked him. James could see the respect in the young guard's eyes. It made him realize that his experience could help others. Maybe that was another way he could make a difference. 6 months passed. The story of the attack was no longer in the news. People had new things to talk about. Life at the palace had returned to normal. The tourists still came to watch the changing of the guard. The guard still stood straight and serious. James had settled into his new role as a trainer. He enjoyed teaching the new guards. He found that he had a talent for explaining things clearly. The young guards respected him and listened carefully to his advice. 3 days each week, James worked as a trainer. The other 2 days, he still served as a guard. This kept his skills sharp and reminded him of why the training was so important. At home, things were good too. James was there for dinner most nights now. He rarely missed Lily's school events. Emma said he smiled more often. The regular hours of his new job meant he was less tired and had more time for his family. One morning, James received a letter. It came from the mental health facility where Michael Trent was staying. It was from Dr. Harris, Michael's doctor. "Dear Guard Wilson, I am writing with Michael Trent's permission. He has made significant progress in his treatment. As part of his therapy, he has started a program to help others with mental health problems. He speaks to groups about how untreated depression and anger led him to commit a terrible act. He often mentions you in his talks. He explains how your quick actions not only saved your life, but also stopped him from doing something even worse that he would regret forever. Michael understands if you do not wish to have any contact with him. However, he would like to know if you received his letter of apology, and if you have any response. Sincerely, Dr. Sarah Harris." James read the letter twice. He had not thought about Michael much in recent months. He had been busy with his new job and his family. The attack had begun to feel like something that happened to someone else, not to him. "What is it?" Emma asked, seeing his serious face. James handed her the letter. She read it quickly, then looked at him with concern. "What will you do?" she asked. "I am not sure," James said. "I need to think about it." That night, after Lily was in bed, James and Emma talked about the letter again. "Do you think he has really changed?" Emma asked. "I do not know," James said. "People can change if they want to and get help. But it has only been 6 months. You do not have to respond," Emma reminded him. "I know," James said. "But maybe it would help both of us move on completely." The next day, James wrote a short letter to Michael. He did not say much. He confirmed that he had received Michael's apology. He said he was glad Michael was getting help and trying to help others. He wished him well in his recovery. He did not say he forgave Michael, but he did not express anger either. After he mailed the letter, James felt a sense of closure. The circle was complete now. He had done his job as a guard. He had survived the attack. He had seen justice done in court. And now he had acknowledged Michael's attempt to make things right, at least as much as possible. The following week, James took his group of trainees to the spot where the attack had happened. It was a teaching moment. "This is where I learned that all our training matters," he told them. "Everything you practice again and again becomes part of you. When danger comes, you will act before you can think. So train well now." One of the trainees, a young woman named Claire, asked a question. "Were you afraid?" she asked. "During the attack?" James thought about it for a moment. "Not during," he said honestly. "There was no time for fear. The training took over. The fear came later, when I thought about what could have happened." "How do you deal with that fear?" Claire asked. "You accept it," James said. "Fear is normal after danger. But you do not let it stop you from doing your job. Each day, it gets a little less, and you remember why the job matters." As James walked with his trainees back to the training room, he felt proud of how far he had come. The attack had changed him, but not in the way Michael had intended. It had not made him famous for being a victim. Instead, it had shown his strength and skill. Now he was passing those skills to others. That evening, as James drove home, he thought about all that had happened. One moment of violence had changed 2 lives forever. Michael would carry the guilt of his actions. James would carry the memory and the scar. But life had moved forward for both of them. Not back to how things were before, but to something new. Something that might even be better in some ways. James had a job he loved. Michael was getting the help he needed and helping others too. 2 weeks later, James sat in a small office at the palace. The head of security, Robert, had called him in for a meeting. Robert was a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. He had been in charge of the guards for 15 years. "We have been watching you since you came back," Robert said. He looked at James with steady eyes. "You have handled everything very well." "Thank you, sir," James said. He wondered why Robert had called this meeting. "I want to offer you a new position," Robert said. "We need someone to help train the new guards, someone who has real experience, someone who knows what it is like to face danger." James was surprised. The training position was important. The trainer helped shape the skills of all new guards. It was also safer than standing guard outside. There would be no more long hours in the sun and rain. No more risk of attacks. "I would still get to be a guard sometimes, right?" James asked. Robert nodded. "Yes, you would still take shifts as a guard, but most of your time would be spent training others." James thought about it. The new job would mean more regular hours. He could be home with Emma and Lily more often. He would not have to work as many weekends and holidays. It was a good opportunity. "Can I have some time to think about it?" James asked. "Of course," Robert said. "Let me know by the end of the week." At the mental health facility, Michael was making progress. He met with Dr. Harris every day. They talked about his anger and his feelings of being unimportant. They worked on ways for him to handle these feelings without hurting others or himself. I never really thought about the guard as a real person, Michael told Dr. Harris. I just saw the uniform. I did not think about him having a family or a life. Dr. Harris nodded. This was an important step. Michael was starting to see how his actions affected others. Would you be willing to write a letter to the guard? Dr. Harris asked. You would not send it yet, but it might help you express your feelings. Michael agreed to try. That night, he sat at a small desk in his room. He had a piece of paper and a pen. Writing a letter was harder than he thought it would be. How could he say sorry for trying to kill someone? After many tries, he wrote, Dear Guard Wilson, I am sorry for what I did. I know sorry is not enough. I hurt you and scared your family. I scared many people that day. I was angry and sad about my own life. I wanted people to notice me, but I chose a very wrong way to do that. I am getting help now. I am learning why I did such a bad thing. I hope someday I can make up for what I did, even though I know I cannot take it back. I am glad you stopped me before I could do worse harm. I am glad you are okay. Michael Trent. After writing the letter, Michael felt a strange sense of peace. He did not know if James would ever read it, but putting his feelings into words had helped him. At home, James talked to Emma about the new job offer. They sat at their kitchen table after Lily had gone to bed. What do you think? James asked. I think it sounds perfect, Emma said. You would be safer. You would be home more. And you would still be doing important work. James nodded. But being on guard duty is what I know best, he said. I am not sure if I would be a good trainer. Emma reached across the table and took his hand. You are patient and clear when you explain things, she said. Look at how you teach Lily when she asks about your work. You would be an excellent trainer. James smiled. Emma always saw the best in him. And she was right that the new job would be better for their family. Lily was growing up fast. He did not want to miss important moments in her life because he was working long shifts. I think I will take it, James said finally. It feels like the right next step. Emma squeezed his hand. I am proud of you, she said, no matter what job you do. 1 month after the attack, the day of Michael Trent's sentencing arrived. The courtroom was full of people. News reporters sat in the back with their notebooks ready. Some tourists who had seen the attack were there too. They wanted to see what would happen to the man with the knife. James sat in the front row. He wore his uniform, but not his hat. His arm had healed well, though the scar was still visible when he rolled up his sleeve. Emma sat next to him, holding his hand. Are you sure you want to be here? She had asked that morning. Yes, James had said. I need to see this through to the end. Michael was brought into the courtroom by 2 officers. He looked different from the angry man who had attacked James. He had lost weight. His face was pale. He kept his eyes down as he walked to his place next to his lawyer. The judge came in, and everyone stood up. He was an older man with white hair and glasses. After everyone sat down again, he looked at some papers on his desk. Then he looked at Michael. Mr. Trent, you have pleaded guilty to attempted murder and attacking a royal guard, the judge said. These are very serious crimes. Before I give your sentence, do you have anything you wish to say to the court? Michael stood up slowly. His hands were shaking. He looked at James for the first time. I am sorry, he said in a clear voice. What I did was wrong. There is no excuse for it. I have written a letter for Guard Wilson. With the court's permission, I would like him to have it. The judge nodded, and a court officer took the letter from Michael's lawyer. The officer gave it to James, who put it in his pocket without opening it. He would read it later, in private. Mr. Trent, I have reviewed the reports from your doctors, the judge said. They believe you were suffering from severe depression and other mental health issues at the time of the attack. This does not excuse your actions, but it does help explain them. The courtroom was very quiet as everyone waited to hear the sentence. "I sentence you to 8 years in prison," the judge said. "However, the first 2 years will be served in a secure mental health facility where you will continue to receive treatment. After that, your case will be reviewed to determine if you should serve the remaining time in a regular prison or continue treatment." Michael nodded. He seemed to accept the sentence without surprise. His lawyer patted his arm. Some people in the courtroom whispered to each other. Some thought the sentence was too light. Others thought it was fair because of Michael's mental health problems. As Michael was led away, he looked at James one more time. Their eyes met briefly. James gave a small nod. It was not forgiveness exactly, but an acknowledgement. An understanding that they would both carry this day with them forever, though in very different ways. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked James how he felt about the sentence. "Justice has been served," James said simply. "Now everyone can move forward." Later that day at home, James opened Michael's letter. He read it while sitting alone in the living room. The words were simple but seemed sincere. When he finished reading, he folded the letter and put it in a drawer. He did not show it to Emma. Some things were just between him and Michael. The next day was James's first day in his new job as a trainer. He stood in front of a group of 10 new guards. They were young men and women who had just finished their basic training. Now they would learn the special skills needed to be royal guards. Being a guard is not just about standing still and looking serious, James told them. It is about being ready for anything at any moment. It is about protecting others even when it puts you at risk. He rolled up his sleeve and showed them his scar. "This is what can happen in this job," he said. "But I am not showing you to scare you. I am showing you because I survived. Because my training helped me do the right things when there was no time to think." The new guards looked at him with respect. They knew his story. Now they would learn from his experience.